You did everything right. You went to college. You studied hard. You got the degree. And now you're staring at a number that doesn't make sense. $42,000. $68,000. $112,000. It doesn't feel like money anymore. It feels like weight. The email says your monthly payment is $620. Not outrageous. Not impossible. But also not optional. And here's the part that no one explained clearly. That $620 isn't just paying off your loan. A big chunk of it is just keeping the loan alive. Take Sarah. She's 27, works in marketing, makes $62,000 a year. She thought she was doing fine. Rent $14, car $310, student loans $580, food, insurance, life. Normal life, nothing crazy. But every month she felt stuck, like she was moving but not getting anywhere. And she couldn't explain why. So we looked at her numbers. Her total loan, $54,000. Average interest rate, 6.2%. Monthly payment, $580. Sounds straightforward. But here's what was actually happening. In her first month, about $280 went to interest. Only $300 reduced her balance. Half her payment didn't move her forward. It just kept the system running. She had no idea. Most people don't. And this is where things get uncomfortable, because the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The longer you take, the more you pay. The smaller your payments, the more comfortable your plan feels. Quietly, over time. Part 2. The hidden cost of time. Now here's where it gets even more dangerous. Because your life keeps moving. Your income goes up a little. Your rent goes up. Your lifestyle adjusts. You feel like you're progressing. But the loan, it's still there. Growing slower, but still there. And sometimes, barely shrinking at all. Let me show you something simple. If you have a $50,000 loan at 6% interest on a standard 10-year plan, you'll pay about $555. Total paid over 10 years, $66,600. That's $16,600 just in interest. Now stretch that to a 20-year plan. Monthly payment drops to around $358. Feels easier, feels manageable. But total paid, $86,000. You just paid an extra $19,400 for the comfort of a lower monthly bill. No one calls it that, but that's what it is. And here's the hardest part. Most people don't choose this consciously. They default into it. Because when you're 22, you're not thinking about 20-year interest math. You're thinking, I just need to survive this month. And that's completely understandable. But it comes with a cost. A very real one. Part 3, the truth about time and strategy. Let's go back to the beginning, because this doesn't start with payments. It starts with decisions you didn't even realize you were making. Choosing a school, accepting a loan package, deferring payments, signing something without fully understanding the long-term math, not because you're careless, but because no one sat down and explained it like this. When you take out a student loan, you're not just borrowing money, you're borrowing time. Future income, future choices. Every dollar you borrow today has a multiplier attached to it, and that multiplier is time. Here's a simple way to think about it. If you borrow $10,000 at 6% interest and take 10 years to pay it back, you don't owe $10,000. You owe time-adjusted money, which becomes around $13,300. That extra $3,300, that's the price of time. Stretch it longer, and the price increases. Shorten it, and the price drops. Simple math, but rarely explained this way. Part 4. The trap most people miss. Now meet Jason. He's 31, software support specialist. Makes $78,000. He has $72,000 in student loans. He's been paying for 8 years. And guess what? His balance is still $61,000. 8 years. Thousands paid, and barely any progress. How does that happen? Because of one thing. Minimum payments. Jason chose an income-driven plan. It lowered his monthly payment to about $410, which helped at first, but his interest, around $360 per month. So every payment barely touched the principal. Sometimes it didn't touch it at all. Some months, his balance actually increased. He didn't notice. Most people don't. Month after month, year after year, it feels like progress, but it's not real progress. It's maintenance. Just enough to keep things from getting worse, but not enough to actually get out. Part 5. The wake-up moment, and this is where the emotional weight starts. Not just financial, mental, because deep down, you start to feel it. I've been paying for years. Why isn't this going away? That question doesn't have an easy answer. but it does have a real one. The system rewards speed and punishes time. That's it. The faster you reduce the balance, the less interest can grow. The slower you go, the more interest builds on top of interest. Money creating more money. But not for you, for the lender. And again, this isn't evil. It's math. Neutral. Predictable. Unforgiving. But once you see it clearly, you can start to work with it instead of against it. Part 6, the strategy shift. Because here's the truth most people never realize early enough. Your student loan strategy matters more than your loan amount. Let me say that again. A person with $40,000 in loans and a bad strategy can pay more than someone with $80,000 in a smart strategy. It happens all the time. Same system. Different approach, different outcome. That's the part no one teaches. And if you're watching this thinking, I've already been paying for years, it's too late. It's not, but it does mean something important. The sooner you change strategy, the more money you save, the longer you wait, the more expensive it becomes to fix. Even small changes matter. An extra $100 a month on a $50,000 loan at 6%, you save around $6,000 in interest and finish nearly 3 years earlier. $100, that's it. Not life-changing money monthly, but life-changing over time. Part 7. The final question. This isn't about extreme sacrifice. It's about awareness. Because once you understand how the system works, you stop playing it blindly. And right now, most people are playing blind, following default plans, minimum payments, safe options, without realizing the long-term cost. So the question isn't, do you have student loans? The real question is, are you accidentally making them more expensive than they need to be? Because most people are, without knowing it. And once you see what's actually happening under the surface, you can't unsee it. In the next part, we're going to break this open completely. Not just what's happening, but why it's happening. And more importantly, the moment where most people realize they've been thinking about student loans the wrong way entirely. That moment changes everything. You'll see it. And once you do, you won't approach your loans the same way again. Part 1. Understanding the hidden structure. Most people think they understand their student loan. They know the total balance. They know the monthly payment. And that's it. That's the problem. Because what actually matters is hidden inside the structure. Every payment you make is split into 2 pieces. One part reduces what you owe. The other part is the cost of borrowing. And in the beginning, that second part dominates. It eats most of your money, quietly. Part 2, Sarah's reality. Let's go back to Sarah for a second. $54,000 loan, 2% interest, $580 monthly payment. In year 1, she paid about $6,960 total. Sounds productive, but only about $3,600 actually reduced her balance. The rest? Gone. That's not a mistake. That's the design. Part 3. The trap over time. Now imagine doing that for 3 years. You've paid over $20,000, but your balance is still above $45,000. That's when people start feeling trapped. Not because they're failing, but because the system is front-loaded. It takes first. It gives later. Part 4. Timing changes everything. And here's where things get interesting. Because once you understand this, you realize something most people never do. Not all dollars are equal. Not all payments are equal. And timing changes everything. Part 5. Early versus late payments. Let's say you add an extra $200 a month, but you do it in the first 2 years, versus doing it in years 8 to 10. Same total extra money. Completely different outcome. Early payments attack the principal when it's highest, which reduces future interest. Later payments, they save you far less, because most of the interest has already been charged. Same effort, different results. Part 6. The cost of waiting. This is the part people miss. Student loans don't just reward consistency. They reward early action, even small amounts, especially early, but most people delay. They wait until they feel ready, until they earn more, until life is stable, which makes sense emotionally, but mathematically, it's expensive. Part 7. The illusion of lower payments. Now let's talk about something that sounds helpful, but often isn't. Lower monthly payments, income-driven plans, extended terms. They feel like relief, and sometimes they are necessary. But they come with a hidden trade-off. Time. Part 8. Jason's long-term cost. Take Jason again. His payment dropped from $750 to $410. That gave him breathing room. But it also extended his loan to 20 plus years. And over that time, he's projected to pay over $118,000 on a $72,000 loan. That's $46,000 in interest. Almost a second loan. Part 9. The trade-off. No one says it that way, but that's the reality. Lower payment, longer time. Longer time, more interest. More interest, higher total cost. It's a trade, not a solution. Part 10. The mindset shift. Now here comes the shift. The moment where everything starts to look different. Because up until now, you've probably been thinking about your student loan like this. How do I manage this payment? That's the default mindset. Monthly, short-term, survival mode, but that's not the real game. Part 11, payment versus cost. Here's the truth. Student loans are not a payment problem. They are a cost problem, and those are two very different things. You can lower your payment and increase your cost. You can raise your payment and decrease your cost dramatically. Same loan, different outcome. Part 12, aha moment. This is aha moment. The system is not asking, can you afford the monthly payment? It's asking, how much are you willing to pay in total? And most people never answer that question consciously. They default into the most comfortable monthly number and quietly accept a much higher lifetime cost. Part 13, real example. Let's make it real. Option A, $50,000 loan at 6%, $555, total paid $66,600. Option B, same loan, $30-$50 month for 20 years, total paid $84,000 plus. You saved $200 a month, but paid nearly $18,000 more. That's not saving, that's delaying the bill and making it bigger. Part 14, better question. Once you see this, you stop asking, what's the lowest I can pay? And start asking, what's the smartest way to reduce total cost? Different question, better results. Part 15, strategy begins. And this is where strategy begins. Because now every decision has a new filter. Extra payments, refinancing, loan consolidation, aggressive payoff. You're not guessing anymore. You're optimizing. Part 16, what actually works. So what actually works? Not extreme sacrifice, not cutting everything, but targeted moves at the right time, in the right way. Part 17, Principle 1, first principle. Attack the principle early, even small amounts. $50 extra, $100 extra. In the first 2-3 years, this has outsized impact because you're shrinking the base that interest grows on. Part 18, Principle 2, second principle. Avoid stretching time unless necessary. If you need a lower payment temporarily, but don't live there permanently, because time is the most expensive variable in the equation. Part 19, Principle 3, third principle. Reevaluate your loan every 12-18 months. Interest rates change. Your income changes. Options change. What made sense at 23 might not make sense at 28, but most people never revisit it. They set it once and forget it. Part 20, small changes, big savings, and that costs them, because even a 1% lower interest rate on $50,000 saves around $5,000, $6,000 over time. One decision, thousands saved. Part 21, the risk of smart moves, but here's where it gets tricky, because not every smart move is actually smart. Refinancing can save money, but it can also remove protections. Federal loans offer things like income-based repayment, deferment, forgiveness programs. Private loans, less flexible. Part 22, math plus life. So it's not just about math, it's about your situation, your stability, your risk tolerance. Money decisions aren't just math. They're math plus life, and ignoring either one leads to mistakes. Part 23, strategy over tactics. And this is why strategy matters more than tactics, because the right move for one person can be the wrong move for another. Same numbers, different life context. Part 24, real life contrast. Let's say Emily has stable income, no dependents, strong emergency fund, refinancing to a lower rate. Probably a smart move. Now take Daniel, freelancer, variable income, unpredictable cash flow. Giving up flexibility, risky, even if the math looks good. Part 25, final shift. But once you understand the structure and shift the question from payment to total cost, you're already ahead of most people, by a lot. Part 26, what comes next? Because now you're ready for something most people never build, a real plan. Not just paying, not just hoping, but actively reducing the cost of your loan, step by step. And in the next part, you'll see exactly how that looks in real life, with real people, real numbers, and a strategy you can actually follow. One that doesn't require extreme sacrifice, just clarity, and a few smart moves in the right order. Part 1. The shift, at some point, something shifts. You stop just making payments, and you start asking a different question. What would it take to actually get out of this? Not someday, not eventually, but intentionally. Part 2. Build a plan. Let's build that plan. Not theory, not generic advice. A real strategy you can follow. Because once you understand how the system works, you don't need motivation, you need structure. Part 3. Meet Alex. Let's start with someone real. Alex, 29 years old, works in IT support, makes $70,000 a year. Student loan balance, interest rate 5.8%, minimum payment $610. Part 4. The old pattern. For years, Alex did what most people do. Paid the minimum. Didn't think much about it. Life was busy. Bills were paid. Everything felt, but the balance barely moved. Part 5. The wake up. After 4 years, Alex had paid over $29,000 and still owed $46,000. That's when it clicked. Something wasn't right. Part 6. The right question. So instead of asking, how do I keep up with this? Alex asked, how do I get out of this faster and cheaper? That's where everything changed. Part 7. Step 1. Clarity. Step 1 was simple. Clarity, not budgeting in the traditional sense, not restricting everything, just understanding where the money was going. Part 8. Finding the gap. Alex found about $420 a month in flexible spending, not waste, just unoptimized subscriptions, eating out, impulse purchases, nothing dramatic. But together, it mattered. Part 9. Redirecting money. Instead of cutting everything, Alex redirected $250 of that into the loan. Not painful, just intentional. Part 10. The new payment. Now the payment wasn't $610 anymore. It was $860. That's where most people hesitate, because it feels like pressure. But here's what actually happened. Part 11. The result, that extra $250 reduced the loan term by almost 4 years and saved around $9,000 in interest. Same life, different allocation. Part 12. Small shifts. No extreme sacrifice, just a shift. This is the part people underestimate. You don't need to change everything. You just need to redirect a few things consistently. Part 13. Applying extra payments. Now here's where Alex did something even smarter. Something most people never think about. Every extra payment was applied directly to the principal, not future payments, not next month's bill, the actual balance. Part 14. Why it matters. This matters more than it sounds. Because if your extra payment just reduces next month's obligation, you don't reduce interest, you just shift timing. Part 15. Common mistake. And that's a mistake many people make without realizing it. They pay extra, but don't tell the system how to apply it. So the system does what benefits the system, not you. Part 16. Doing it right. Alex avoided that. Every dollar extra went to shrinking the balance faster. Part 17. Income growth. Now let's add another layer, because this is where things start compounding in your favor. Income growth. Part 18. Using raises wisely. After a year, Alex's salary increased from $70,000 to $75,000. Nothing huge, but instead of upgrading lifestyle, half of that increase went to the loan, about $200 more per month. Now total payment. Part 19. Bigger impact. That one decision cut another 2 years off the loan and saved another $6,000 in interest. Small increases, big impact. Part 20. The pattern. This is the pattern, not perfection, not extremes, but consistency, direction. Part 21. Meet Maya. Now let's look at another case. Different situation, different strategy. Meet Maya, 33 years old, freelancer. Income fluctuates between $50,000. Part 22. Maya's loan. Student loan, $64,000. Interest, 6.5%. Payment variable, income-based. Part 23. Her strategy. For Maya, stability wasn't guaranteed. So aggressive fixed payments? Risky. Instead, she used a different approach. Part 24. Flexible payments. She made minimum payments during low-income months, but during high-income months, she made large, irregular extra payments. $1,000, $2,000, sometimes more. Part 25. Why it works. This strategy works because interest doesn't care how often you pay. It cares how much principal remains. So large, targeted hits reduce future interest significantly. Part 26. The result, over 3 years, Maya reduced her balance from $64,000 to $28,000. Not by consistency, but by timing, using her income pattern. Part 27. The lesson, she worked with her reality, not against it. And that's the point. There is no one perfect strategy. There is only the right strategy for your situation. Part 28. Stable income, consistency wins. Variable income, flexibility bursts win. Same goal, different path. Part 29. 3-part strategy. Now let's simplify everything into something you can actually use. Not theory, not inspiration. A real framework. Part 30. Step 1. First, understand your baseline, your balance, your interest rate, your current payment. Without this, you're guessing. Part 31. Step 1. Second, decide your target timeline. Not as long as it takes. Not default. Choose. 5 years? 7 years? 10 years? Part 32. Reverse engineering. Because once you choose a timeline, you can reverse engineer the payment needed. Part 33. For example, $50,000 at 6%, 10 years, 55 slide month, 5 years, about 966 month. That's the real cost of speeding up. Part 34. The choice. Now you decide comfort or total cost. Part 35. Step 30. Third, close the gap. If your current payment is $555 and your target is $900, you don't need to jump there instantly. Part 36. Build gradually. You build toward it. $50 more this month. $100 more in 3 months. $200 more after a raise. Step by step. Part 37. Momentum. This removes the overwhelm and builds momentum. Momentum matters. Part 38. Tracking progress. Now here's something subtle. Tracking. When you see your balance drop faster than expected, something changes. It becomes real, not abstract, not endless. Part 39. Staying motivated. Progress becomes visible, and that keeps you going, because motivation fades. But progress? That's addictive. Part 40. Taking control, and by now something should feel different. You're no longer reacting to your loan. You're directing it, shaping it, reducing its cost. Part 41. The final shift, but there's still one more shift, a deeper one, because even with a good strategy, most people still make one critical mistake. Part 42. What's next? A mistake that quietly limits how far they can go, and it has nothing to do with math, nothing to do with interest rates. It's about how they see money itself. In the final part, we're going to go there. The deeper layer, the mindset that separates people who escape debt quickly from those who stay stuck for decades. And once you see it, you won't just change how you pay your loans. You'll change how you think about money. Part 1. The invisible factor. There's a moment that doesn't show up on spreadsheets. It's not in your loan balance. It's not in your interest rate. But it determines everything. How you see your money. Because up until now, we've been talking about strategy, numbers, payments, timing. All important. Part 2. The uncomfortable truth. But here's the uncomfortable truth. 2 people can follow the exact same plan and get completely different results. Same income, same loan, same strategy, but one finishes early. The other drags it out for years. Why? It's not math, it's behavior. Part 3. The small decisions. It's the quiet decisions, the ones that feel small. That's just $40. I'll start next month. I deserve this. Those moments don't feel important, but they compound. Just like interest. Part 4. The math of habits. $40 here, $60 there, $20 just this once. That's $300 a month, $3,600 a year. Over 5 years, $18,000. That's not lifestyle. That's a delayed payoff. Part 5. The second shift. This is where the second shift happens. The deeper one. Aha moment 2. You don't have a student loan problem. You have a decision allocation problem. Every dollar you spend is a decision about your future, not just your present. Part 6. Trade-offs. Because money is limited, always, even when you earn more. And every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else, even if you don't see it. Part 7. Everyday choices. Dinner out tonight? Or $50 less interest over time. New phone upgrade? Or 3 months off your loan. Vacation upgrade? Or thousands saved in interest. These aren't moral choices. They're trade-offs. Part 8. Intentional living. And once you see them clearly, you start making them differently. This doesn't mean cutting everything. It doesn't mean living small. It means being intentional, because the goal isn't deprivation, it's control. Part 9, back to Alex. Let's go back to Alex. Same person, same loan, but now different mindset. Before, Alex would spend without thinking, not irresponsibly, just automatically. Now, every decision had context. Part 10, thinking differently, not pressure, context. This $80, not today, over time. That $80 isn't just $80. It's $80 plus the interest it could have avoided. Maybe $110, maybe $120. Part 11, clarity and control. Now the decision feels different, clearer. And something interesting happens when you start thinking this way. You don't feel restricted, you feel powerful, because now you're choosing, not reacting. Part 12, the paradox. And here's the paradox. When you control your money, you actually enjoy spending more, because it's intentional, not guilt-driven. Part 13, what you value. You stop chasing upgrades and start valuing outcomes, freedom, flexibility, options. Part 14, connecting everything. Now let's connect everything, because by this point, you've seen how the system works, why time increases cost, how strategy reduces it, and how behavior drives everything. Part 15, what matters? So what actually matters? Not perfection, not extreme sacrifice, but alignment. Your actions matching your goal. Part 16, the goal, and your goal is simple. Reduce the total cost. Regain control. Move forward. Part 17, bigger impact, because student loans aren't just about money. They affect your choices, where you live, what job you take, when you save, when you invest. Part 18, time matters, and the longer they stay, the more they quietly shape your life. But the opposite is also true. The faster you reduce them, the sooner you get those choices back. Part 19, the real payoff. And that's the real payoff. Not just being debt-free, but being free to choose. Part 20, final message. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do everything at once. You just need to start making decisions that reduce the cost of your future, consistently. Part 21, the process. A little more here, a little smarter there, month by month, until one day, it's gone. Not by accident, but by design. Part 22, the ending. And when that happens, it won't feel like luck. It will feel like control, because it was always within reach. You just needed to see it clearly.